Hey guys, this is my first podcast ever, and today I'm going to be talking about final thoughts about the New York Jets versus New York Giants. Yesterday, the Jets beat the Giants 31-27, and it was a very competitive game, back and forth. The Jets had a big comeback from behind. I was really impressed by what Streveler has been doing in the past couple of games. Streveler had 2 touchdowns and to make the Jets come back. 3 comeback victories versus opposing teams. And Joe Flacco had a little of a disappointing game. It was his first ever preseason game appeared in. He struggled a little bit, only going 7 for 12 for 76 yards. Robert Saleh says that they can do good. And they might start Flacco in the first game. So Zach Wilson's still hurt with the he has a hamstring, I think. But yeah. Zach Wilson is still trying to get back for week 1, but Mike White gets the backup reps right now. So Wilson suffered the right injury to his right leg during the team's opening preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's reportedly saying that the 22-year-old is actively preparing in every way he can. So, that's a pretty good sign. But Joe Flacco will have to take over the starting role and will play beginning the team's preseason matchup. So, and today, they announced that Sauce Gardner will be the starting defensive lineup. Replacing Bryce Hall. So, Sauce Gardner said that they drafted him so he can keep playing and he's going to be fantastic. Bryce Hall had a really good training camp, but at the same time, the overall body of work from the OTAs, this kid's going to be pretty good, Salah said. Yeah. I'm pretty impressed by Sauce's college. He had a pretty good college, and today they released that Sauce Gardner is going to be has his own sauce at Buffalo Wild Wings. That would bring him even more popularity, and it says that Sauce is going to make history by signing autographs with wing sauce. So he's going to be even more popular now for what he did. So on tomorrow, the Jets are going to have to make a roster move, making 53 down to 53. So CJ Uzama coming back was signed in the offseason free agency by the Jets picked him up from Cincinnati. He had a pretty decent year there. Last year he had he had a pretty decent year. So now he's going to be with the Jets. Last year he had 15 receptions for 146 receiving yards and 1 touchdown in the postseason. And the regular season last year, he had 49 receptions and 493 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. So that's pretty good. I don't know who's going to win the starting spot for the Jets. Either it's going to be C.J. Uzomah or Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin had a very good game yesterday. He got open on many of his passes, and he just killed it. So let's see what else we have to talk about. So Greg Zuerlein was a very good kicker with the Cowboys last year, coming from a postseason team. So Greg Zuerlein the other day replaced Eddie Pinheiro on the offseason. They cut Eddie Pinheiro so now Greg Zuerlein will have to win the starting spot. So so Greg Zuerlein had a pretty decent year with the Cowboys last year. So now he's gonna have to take on a big task because the Jets are very good at getting down the field and in the red zone to score. By the game yesterday versus the Giants, the Jets just got down the field fast and he made every single kick. In the postseason, Greg Zuerlein had 1 field goal made, 2 extra points made, and his 51 was the longest field goal. That's pretty far for a kicker, but he is a veteran. He's pretty good. So this season, Zuerlein has returned to his old ways. He's made 17 out of 20 field goals last year and 15 of his 17 extra points. Zuerlein has a touchback percentage of 66%. So it says that he's a place kicker, but he's now the field goal kicker for the Jets. So, yeah. Last year in the regular season, he had 29 field goals made, 42 extra points made, and 56 was the longest field goal. He had a busy game last year versus the Giants. He had his most field goals in a game he had to do was 4 or 5, 3, something around that area. But yeah. So I don't know if LaMarco Pirine or Breece Hall, who they drafted, who's gonna win, or are they just gonna rotate between Ty Johnson and all those guys? But yeah. Cowboys trying to trade for the New York Jets for offensive line help. So this might be a big move. They're trying to the Cowboys are pursuing O-line backup held in the form of the New York Jets offensive line, Chamadoga, who is not slated to be a starter with the Jets going into camp. So with the injury to Mekhi Becton, the season injury to Mekhi Becton, he might have to play. I have one more thing to talk about that was crazy yesterday. Denzel Mims had a great game. 102 receiving yards, a touchdown, 7 for 8 receiving. He just killed it yesterday. I'm sure he's trying to win his spot with the Jets. He said he'll still enjoy playing with the Jets, but even though he requested a trade, I would think Joe Douglas is thinking more about keeping him now, because we wouldn't want to trade him for a 7th or 8th round pick. But after his performance yesterday, that receiving touchdown the ball was like nearly out of bounds, and he just like went for the ball and caught it. It was just crazy. And the one that he didn't complete was the one that he caught, but it was out of bounds. He probably couldn't have caught it, but it wasn't a great pass. So, yeah, I don't know about Denzel Mims. His first year with the Jets, he had food poisoning, and he also got injured. And last year, he never had a receiving touchdown. His whole career, his first receiving touchdown was the game yesterday versus the Giants. So, that was pretty good. The game versus the Falcons wasn't that good for the Jets because they were down 16-0 at halftime, and they came all the way back in the second half and won. So, pretty crazy for the Jets to do right now. They have a lot to do in the before the season starts on September 11th versus the Ravens at home, 1 o'clock game at MetLife Stadium. So the Jets will have a lot more work to do with their team before they start. Thank you guys all for listening to my first podcast ever. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm a huge Jets fan, so I hope you guys do too. So, thank you for listening. Hi guys, this is my second podcast that I made. So the Lions vs. Steelers on Sunday was the the final game of the preseason for the NFL. So, the Steelers won 19-9. The Lions played their quarterback, David Blau, and Steelers played Boswell was their kicker, and Trubisky made his preseason debut. So it was it was 0-0 going into the. So it started off as the Steelers winning 16-0 at halftime, and the Lions came back to score a field goal, 16-3, and then the Steelers had another field goal, and then so the Steelers played the majority of the game. They were winning the majority of the game, and Trubisky is going to make his case for QB job. So, I don't know what will happen with Harris, the running back, or Big Ben, but, yeah. So, next week, the Steelers will be taking on on September 11th, the Steelers will be taking on the Bengals, at 1 o'clock. So, Cincinnati's favored to win that game, but you never know. And the Lions are planned to take on September 11th at 1 o'clock versus the Eagles, and they're going to be home. And the Eagles are favored to win the game. So we will see what will happen with those games, but both teams have a lot to keep moving on with into a lot of adjustments they got to make before they start playing in a official game in the regular season. Thank you guys for listening. This was just a quick little recap of the game from the other day. So thank you for listening. So, today was big news for the NFL. Today, all NFL teams shortened their roster to 53 people. So, yeah, today I'll be talking about mostly the Jets, but Kyle Shanahan is going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's happy. 49ers are happy to have a starting QB as a backup. So, that's pretty cool. And Deshaun Watson is still suspension officially begins today. Raiders Josh McDaniels has his assessment about his team. The Raiders finished the preseason on 4-0 and will have to cut their roster down to 53 players. They won over the Patriots, and Josh McDaniels watched the film, and he talked to the state of the silver and black, and he had a press conference on I think on YouTube or something, but Raiders fan base was probably watching that. So the Bears cut the fanfare for Bears. So a few questionable moves. Biggest names lost: Mario Edward Jr., Michael Scofield, and James O'Shaughnessy. So yeah, they included 6 cornerbacks, but 7 wide receivers. But it's likely from the group will start on injured reserve for at least 4 weeks. Edwards hasn't been practicing much in training camp, and yeah. So now let's get to the Jets. The Jets had to. So Robert Saleh said, despite miserable process of final cuts, we got a pretty cool 53. So one thing came through loud and clear as from head coach Robert Saleh's short news conference following Tuesday's practice, and in particular Tuesday's 4 p.m. release of the Jets' final 27 cuts. So Saleh, he really likes what Denzel Mims brings to the table, and they wanted to make a Rich Mims trade offer, but the Jets weren't worried about bidding their time waiting for a trade offer, and he doesn't think he's a hostage. It's a lot easier to kick someone out of the door if they're a jerk. That's not Denzel. He's a good young man. I'm pleased with the way he's approaching this, Saleh said. So, the Jets had to cut some people, and safety Tony Adams was one of them. Linebacker Quan Alexander. Wait, never mind. These are the 53 players that made the team. So these are the 53 that made the team. So it was safety Tony Adams, linebacker Quan Alexander, wide receiver Braxton Berrios, tackle Dwayne Brown, tight end Lawrence Cager, running back Michael Carter, cornerback Michael Carter II, defensive line Michael Clemens, tight end Tyler Conklin, defensive line Vinnie Curry, safety Ashton Davis, wide receiver Corey Davis, cornerback Brandon Echols, tackle George Fant, offensive line Dan Feeney, quarterback Joe Flacco, defensive line John Franklin Myers, CB Sauce Gardner, running back Bryce Hall, Bryce Hall, cornerback Justin Hardy, left safety Thomas Hennessy, long snapper. Offensive line Nate Herb, defensive line Bryce Huff, defensive end Jermaine Johnson, running back Ty Johnson, safety LaMarcus Joyner, running back Donovan Knight, defensive end Carl Lawson, punter Braden Mann, Defensive end Jacob Martin. Who else? Center Connor McGovern. Wide receiver Denzel Mims. Offensive line Max Mitchell. Wide receiver Elijah Moore. Linebacker C.J. Mosley. Defensive line Sheldon Rankins. CB DJ Reed. Tight end Jeremy Ruckert. Defensive line Nathan Shepard. Linebacker Jamian Sherwood. Wide receiver Jeff Smith. Defensive line Solomon Thomas. Offensive line Lakeem Tomlinson. Tight end C.J. Uzama. Offensive line Elijah Vera Tucker. QB Mike White. Safety Jordan Whitehead. Linebacker Quincy Williams. Defensive line Quinnen Williams. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson. QB Zach Wilson. And kicker Greg Zerline. So these are 53 players that made the team on the starting roster. So I hope that these players will have a great season. But the rest of the players that didn't make the team will either get cut or are on the practice squad. I'm kind of surprised that Chris Strebler wasn't put on the starting roster because he owned August. He had a spectacular 3 games comeback victories for the Jets. I'm just surprised that he didn't make it on. But I feel like they should put him on the practice squad or try to put an effort to keeping him on the practice squad. But if he's gonna get traded, he's gonna be traded to a very good team because he had a great preseason. So this is about Tony Adams. Big credit to Tony Adams. He was undrafted, but he just did a really good job every single day, found ways to get better and better. He got a bright future ahead of him. We would have been sick if we lost him. Running back Zonovan Knight. It's hard to make it as an undrafted free agent. Bam's a young man with a really good running style. Then, from a special team standpoint, great value in that respect. It's really cool for a guy like Bam to make the roster. Tight end Lawrence Cager. He went from being a slow receiver to a fast tight end. From a physical standpoint, he will be a willing blocker. He beefed up to 245, but he's not liability in the run game. He's earned his way because he is a problem when it comes to running routes against linebackers and safeties. Credit to him for creating a unique skill set that's different from C.J. Uzama, different from Tyler Conklin, and different from Jeremy Ruckert. So, this concludes the 53-man rosters for most of the NFL teams as they wrap up the preseason, and the first couple games will start on September 11th. The Jets will be taking on the Ravens at home at MetLife Stadium, 1 o'clock versus the Ravens. So we will see how this Jets team plays off versus this Baltimore team, Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley, and we will just see how it all plays out coming up on September 11th. Thank you guys all for listening to my podcast. We probably will have another podcast coming later today or tomorrow, but I'll be doing a little baseball news about like the Mets, the Yankees, all New York sports. So thank you guys for listening.